Hello and welcome in to another edition of the LFC Transfer Room YouTube channel where we'll be talking all about transfers, the game, records, you name it, we've got it. Transfer window does close tomorrow, so make sure you're here tomorrow as well at 7:30 because that is the transfer deadline day special. Joined by Harry, West and Carr. To start with you, Harry, how are you this evening?
Yeah, I'm all good, mate. How are you?
Tired, don't have kids. I don't mean that. It means everything. West, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I hope you guys are good. How are you?
Just tired. Carter, how about you? What are you up to tonight?
Just enjoying my day off, and yeah, it's just a shame the early game was a bit boring, and the second game was a bit rubbish. Well, I'd say I didn't really enjoy it, but it was good. It's been all right, just relaxing, to be honest.
Yeah, City crumbled again. I honestly thought that they would have drop points today, but oh well. But anyway, we'll start with Danns. Jayden Danns is apparently rumour of interest to Sunderland and Blackburn. I mean, I think we'll know by tomorrow if he's staying and being part of the squad or going on loan. Would have been a deadline day. But Harry, do you think a loan will benefit Danns going to like a Sunderland or a Blackburn? I mean, the Sunderland are doing really well in the Championship this year. They're fighting for probably, I'd say, the playoffs rather than automatic promotion. But they're doing well. I think Danns could add to them. But don't you think he could add stuff to us as well? You'd expected him to probably start against Plymouth. But if he does go tomorrow, then he probably won't. But he's been around the first team. He played his first Champions League game this week. Do you think it's got legs, a loan move for him?
Yeah, because I think we're at the point in the season now where he's not going to get a lot of chances to start. Almost every game we play now is going to be a big one, unless Arsenal crumble or something. We have the title wrapped up early, but yeah, I think he's going to struggle for chances. Obviously, Plymouth's the sort of one game you look at where he's got a good chance to start. I think we've seen our players go on loan to the Championship before. Harvey Elliott at Blackburn, and you saw how that turned out for him. I think he got about 13 assists or something in a poor side as well. And I think he learned from that experience and came back a better player. So we've had good experiences before of sending players down there. And yeah, I think he'll struggle for chances. So I can see that happening 100%.
Yeah. What about you, West? Jayden Danns, do you think, out of the two sides, what would you say would be the better move for him, going to Sunderland, do a fight in the promotion spaces, or Blackburn? I can't say watch much of the Championship. I think last time I checked, a mid-table side this year. What do you think offers Jayden Danns more opportunity to develop his game? You're muted.
Oh, I think it's Blackburn, to be honest. The reason why I say that because I think Sunderland have their starting 11. I don't think Danns will add any quality to them. I think they already have the 11. I think Danns will be used as a sub. And now we need Danns to be starting games. So I think Blackburn, since they're a mid-table team, they would use him more. And we kind of have a good relationship with Blackburn when it came to Harvey Elliott. So I think also it can also work out for Danns too.
Interesting take. What about you, Carter? I mean, I can't say I watched much of the Championship to know where he'd fit in, really. I mean, if you look at the Blackburn starting 11 from their last game, they had Makatog way up front. He's the number 9. Owen Becker's there. What side would you think would be best? Looking at the table, Blackburn Blackburn are 5th and Sunderland are 4th. For Blackburn are 10 points off Sunderland, so they're both fighting playoff places. Which side do you think would be better suited to Liverpool?
I think it's really difficult because I think I work with a guy who supports Sunderland. He watches all the games, and from what I get, obviously they signed Enzo Lefebvre like this January, so they are looking like a good team. But as Wes said, I think they do kind of have a bit more of a settled 11. I think that also because Danns would probably be alone without an option to buy. I feel like if he has 2 or 3 bad games, they might just not play him because there's so much pressure. Like Sunderland are really trying to get into that automatic spot. So I feel like it's a bit more of a risk for game time. Whereas I think Blackburn, he needs to go and I think the big thing for someone like Danns, strikers like him take a lot longer to kick on. Like I always think like that, unless you're Haaland, like bigger strikers. Like Solanke was the greatest goal scorer in like academy football history, and it took him 5-6 years to get going. You look at Kane, it took 3 or 4 years, loads of loans. I think Danns, we just send him somewhere where he's going to play every week, where there's a bit less pressure in a decent to good team like Blackburn. I think that's the best move for us.
Yeah, I mean, Harry, what do you think? I mean, Sunderland's starting strikers are Wilson Isidore, Liza Meander, and Ahmed Abdullahi. I don't know what the stats are. I'll check as you're talking. Which side are you more keen for them to go to?
Yeah, I'm quite similar to you, whereas I don't have a lot of knowledge of the championship of these teams. I'd say if it's true that Sunderland have that sort of set starting 11, then yeah, if he can go to Blackburn and get more minutes, that's what you want from him. I think they both look like decent enough teams where he'll get chances to score. So if he's going to get more minutes at Blackburn, then I think that's the better place for him to go. And as we mentioned before as well, we've got a relationship with him. Owen Beck's obviously on loan there, and he's starting a lot of games. And Harvey Elliott went there and, was probably one of their best players that season. So I think there's a relationship there. And if he can get more minutes, that's the place for him to be.
We've just had a look then, and out of Sunderland strikers, one's only scored 9 times in 26 games, and the other one's only scored 4 times in 21 games, and the other striker hasn't played this season. So it looks like Sunderland, although they're 10 points clear of Blackburn, are struggling for an out striker. And like Harry said, West, they are looking to push into them automatic promotion places. I mean, they play but Middlesbrough on Monday, and if they win that game, they go level on points with Burnley. And then they're only 3 points off Sheffield United in second. Does that change anything for you if you look at the fact that Sunderland strikers aren't firing goals? If you was to send them somewhere like Sunderland, he hit form, he started banging the goals in, what their strikers haven't been doing, and got them to automatic promotion. Is that a better achievement than, say, send them to Sunderland and allowing that to happen? Then Blackburn, who are probably not going to get automatic promotion, but will probably get playoffs. Does the fact that their strikers aren't scoring change anything for you, or do you still say Blackburn? West?
No, not really. It doesn't change anything for me. Like, I still believe Blackburn because, as Carter and Henry said, we have Owen back there. We have Elliot was there. Like, we saw Elliot pick up form, pick up game time. So I still go with Blackburn, even though Sunderland struggles of not scoring. But then for me, it doesn't change anything because Blackburn gave us Elliot, and look at how Elliot's performing for us in Liverpool. And Owen Beck is starting that side. So I think Owen Beck and Jan will have that connection from the academy, and they might kick on.
Of course, I know we've alluded to Owen Beck, but it's not really worth talking about forging that relationship because Owen Beck's probably not going to make it at Liverpool, is he?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I think Luke Chambers, who I think I did actually disagree with you at one point ages ago. I think Luke Chambers has got a slight chance, a bit more than Beck, but I just think it's really difficult, like where we choose to send Danns, because if you look at Sunderland, I think the other big thing is I don't know how old the strikers that they play are, but obviously they have guys like Chris Virg, who's like 17. So I think there's got to be a balance of sort of ages as well. Like if things start going wrong, if they have 2 or 3 bad games, sometimes managers just will put more senior pros who the bottom level of performance might be higher than like Danns or something, even though Danns' best performance could be levels above the guys they've got. The bottom line of these guys might just be better. And sometimes in the championship, that's just what you need. You just need reliable players who just do well. But I think it will be interesting because it is a really good stomping ground. And I think Blackburn, but I just think, yeah, maybe Blackburn's just a bit safer just because I think the amount of pressure at Sunderland, just because it is a big city, it is a big team. And there's going to be so much pressure for them to get into those spots, especially after, I think it was the other week, they had 2 penalties saved by Trafford in like the last 10 minutes. Like they've had a few poor results. So I do think the pressure is going to start to mount. And if he does come and he goes 5 games without a goal, not that it's going to knock his confidence, but he then just could end up being out of the team for the rest of the season and just be sort of bench cameo. So I think it's a really difficult decision for the team to make. I think if Liam Rosnier was still at Hull, I would think that would be a really good move. But obviously they've gone and got Barry and he's not there anymore. So it will be interesting what we decide to do.
One thing's for sure, I can't wait for tomorrow's window to shut because I hate all this transfer. Will they, won't they? Palaver, it's ridiculous. But we'll move on to Salah. The Premier League, great. I think people can agree with that. Yesterday, went sixth above Henry and Lampard in the space of 2 weeks in the Premier League all-time scorers. His numbers are a lot better than Henry's, which it's quite crazy. You look at it, if he scores 10 more goals, he actually goes above Aguero and Andy Cole. So he becomes fourth, and he'd only be 20. He's 30 goals. 30 goals off Wayne Rooney and like 35 off Kane, and about 80 odd off Shearer. If Salah was to stay, Harry, say he signed another 2-year deal, it's not out the realm of possibility that he becomes the Premier League all-time top goal scorer, is it?
No, so how many is he off Shearer? I missed that bit. Shearer's on 260, right?
Yeah,
Or
so
is
he's
it-
82 goals off Shearer.
I think the way he's going, he never looks like he's going to slow down. I'll give him that. Like every season he comes back and he looks almost sharper, almost fitter, sometimes even faster. And he's always trying to improve. So, the way this season goes, if he can sort of emulate the first half, you see him getting at least 15 goals in the league just this season. And then say you can pull off two more 30-goal seasons. And then you see where it goes from there. He wouldn't be far off Shearer if it went like that. But yeah, it's not out of the realm possibility at all. No, I think I don't even know how to put it with him. It's just ridiculous. Especially just looking at this season, like he's got 2 less goals than games, and then add all the assists as well. It's just a joke, and it's almost hard to talk about. It's that crazy. But yeah, it's definitely not out of the realm of possibility, and I definitely think if he stays and he keeps going the way he is, he could definitely overtake Rooney and Kane.
What about you, West? He is only 35 goals off becoming second and leveling Harry Kane, 36 off taking over Harry Kane. Where would you expect Salah to maybe end this season? If you say 10 goals puts him above Aguero and Andy Cole in fourth, is that realistic for this season? Because we can, at the minute, obviously, with Salah, we can only work on where he ends this season because there's no guarantee he stays next year.
For me personally, I think Salah will finish fourth, to be honest. I think the way he's going now, the way how strong he is, I think he can touch fourth or maybe third. I'm really not sure. But then like for Salah, like he has been unbelievable for the past 8 years, 7 years in Liverpool. He has been consistent. He's the guy that we relied on, 20 goals plus for the past 5 seasons. Even though we've been having our worst season, Salah always steps up for us. So when I look at Salah, like I have no questions on Salah. Like he's the top player, so I think maybe he can finish on fourth or third, to be honest. And if he stays next season, I think he might catch up to Kane, to be honest.
Interesting. And Carter, sorry. 31 goals puts him above Wayne Rooney. That's what everyone wants to see. They don't want Salah below Rooney. Obviously not attainable this season, I don't think, unless he goes on a mad one. But can you see him staying? And where do you think he might end up? Where's the realistic target for Salah?
I think if he stays for 3 years, I think as long as we and people might not like, I think if we make signings, we'll actually get even better. And I know we're a good team already. I think we can get even more dominant. We can get Salah around the box even more. We can get him more good chances. We'd probably end up getting more penalties. I think if Salah stays for 2 or 3 years, I think he gets very close to Kane. I think it's a flip of a coin if he gets above Kane. If he does 3 years, I think it's really tight because you do never know. Sometimes injuries do happen. Sometimes players do regress. And also, I think the other issue might be he can start getting rotated a bit because as much as he wants those records, if we're playing Real Madrid in the semi-final of the Champions League and we've got a league game and Salah's 35, I think he might play the semi-final and not the league game if we just have to manage his minutes more. So I think that is something that could slow him down. But I think he definitely has all the potential to do it. And the fact that I think is it 7 or 8 for Salah? And I think Shearer's took 14. Yeah. That is just so impressive. Although obviously you don't get to see the Blackburn and Southampton Shearer which was like a goal a game before it was the Premier League.
Yeah.
But to even be that close to Shearer as a player who went on sort of his pathway is actually just ridiculous.
Yeah, Harry, I mean, 36 goals takes him above Harry Kane. Well, I would appreciate what Carter's saying in terms of we might have to start resting him. You think the rest of this season, if Salah was to get another 10 goals this year, which isn't out the realm of possibility, the form he's in, he has only got to get 26 goals next year to take over Harry Kane. Like, when you think like that, like Carter just said, 7 seasons, next year will be his 8th. If he's the second highest goal scorer in the Premier League after 8 seasons, surely he's got to be regarded as the best modern day forward.
Yeah, I think he does exactly what the modern day forward should do. I mean, what any forward ever should do is score goals and then get a few assists with it. And that's what he's been doing for the last 7 years. It's just, every time you look at the record, just his record in general of numbers, it's just the most ridiculous thing. Like, especially when you see like his home record and stuff, it's just crazy. And yeah, I think just in world football, no one does it like him. No one has those sort of numbers nowadays. I know, you go back to Messi's 90 goal or 91 goal calendar year, and no one touches that. But yeah, over the last God knows how long, he's been one of the best, if not the best. And people talk about, oh, he's not aesthetic, which, if you actually watch him week in, week out, he has a lot of good moments on the ball. The way he dribbles is sometimes very nice to watch. But, people talk about that. And the argument is, at the end of the day, he could be the least aesthetically pleasing footballer ever. But if he gets those numbers, I don't care. No one cares. It's like Haaland. I know he's not been the same this season, but he looks stiff as anything. But if he scores 50 goals in a year, I don't think City are going to care. It's the same sort of thing.
Yeah. You's telling you off here, West. Telling don't smoke like West. But Mo Salah, do you think? I mean, I know Liverpool. I think a lot of Liverpool fans do disrespect Salah, but for you, where does he rank in terms of greatest forwards the Premier League seen? Is he in the conversation of top 3?
To be honest, when it comes to Salah, Salah is a winger. For us to put him as a forward is the goals in his numbers. So I put Salah, like, I know the Alan Shearer era. I'm looking at my era where I wasn't in the Alan Shearer era. So I look at and I put him above everyone. I put him top because he's Mr. Reliable. He doesn't have drop-offs. In big games, Salah turns up. We know that. Against United, he's killed him many times. So like I put Salah above everyone else. Like Salah is number 1 for me, the best forward in our era, to be honest, because he turns up every season. Everybody had been doubting Salah every season in, season out, and he produces the numbers. I know people say aesthetic is not a great dribbler, but then have you guys seen his goals? He scores. Have you seen his assists?
Yeah.
Don't talk about that because when people make an argument about aesthetic, they say dribbling, whatever. Okay, cool. Dribbling is nice and all, but then putting the ball behind the net, the back of the net is also aesthetic. Also, his goals, like he just said, his goal is just vintage Salah, the curler. We've seen a lot of times from him. So yeah, that's why I said put him number 1.
Owen, why do I keep you look like Owen? That's the problem, cause you look like Owen. I think the best person to compare to Mo Salah is Henry, both wingers who found themselves with a lot of goals. I know Henry did play up front a lot for Arsenal, but his natural position was a winger. Now he has overtook Henry. I mean, before he overtook him, his goals to game ratio is a lot better than Henry's. Where does he rank? Is Henry still the best, or would you say Salah just edges it?
I think for me, this is quite a difficult question. I think the only times I've seen Henry play for Arsenal is against Leeds in the cup game, so I'm a bit young for that. But obviously, everything you see, like, no, I think Henry, I think for some people, and I'd never be mad at it, I think if you see all the footage of Henry, I think he is kind of the best of both worlds, if that makes sense. I didn't watch him, so I can't give my proper opinion. However, I think the one thing you can give Salah over Henry is that in some of the big European games, he has turned up. I think that's something that was labelled that Henry is like sort of lack of performance in finals. Whereas even if they are penalties, Salah still turns up, Salah still plays well. I even think when we went to Barcelona and we lost 3-0, I thought Salah might apart from Messi's 2 moments of brilliance, I thought Salah was the best player on the pitch. I think for me, in my era of, I'll count when I could actually properly watch football from about the season after Hodgson, like when I actually properly started maybe understanding it. I'd say it's him, Kane, and I'd maybe say Hazard. I think him and Kane are the 2 best I've seen, and I think I'd edge him definitely over Kane. I think he's the best of the sort of 2010s to modern era by a large mile. Maybe De Bruyne is second, but I think him and De Bruyne are the 2 best.
Did you not see Rooney's? Did you not ever see Rooney's arch, or was that just before your time as well?
I saw sort of towards the end of Rooney. I saw the last Champions League final is like, because obviously you don't watch all the games. Like when you're younger, like you kind of watch Liverpool games and then you go and play football on the weekend, or you go and do stuff. Whereas now, like, I just want to relax, so I watch the games. But he was good. I did see bits of it, but for me, I more remember him in like an Everton shirt, to be honest now, and like Jose Mourinho.
See, Rooney on his day, now he's retired, we can appreciate Rooney. He's levels above Harry Kane, absolute levels above Harry Kane. But I hate.
But I saw because I woke up and I saw it was like Man United, Man City on the TV, and actually I probably shouldn't say he's good, but like I actually didn't realize how good Giggs was, and he was like 35. So it is some of these ones I've just missed some of these guys, and I would always say, oh, he's rubbish, he's not that good. He played for 17 years, like that's why he's got all these numbers. But it actually is really difficult to make these statements for someone of like my age, because I just haven't seen all these guys, so I actually can't know. But the modern ones, I'd say Salah's definitely the best.
Yeah, out the United legends, I don't know. The only one who I thought was overrated was Scholes. I think Gerrard and Lampard are levels above him. But back to Salah, Harry. How important is it that he stays at Liverpool this year? So you take Mo Salah's goals out of Liverpool, we're definitely not top of the league. If he goes, we could strengthen. Slot said we're going to be bringing players in the summer, but can anyone in world football replace Mo Salah's goal to game output? And then you factor in his assists as well.
No, but nobody can do it. No one does it in their sort of not less competitive leagues, but no one does it in any league, let alone the Premier League. You know, no one's gonna, no one can get in. You know, you think about even the players, sort of the top wingers. You think like Lamine Yamal, well, he's not going anywhere. Rodrigo at Real Madrid, again, doesn't hit those sort of numbers still, and he's another one that probably won't end up going anywhere. So there's no one you can bring in to replace those numbers or even get that close to it. I don't even know, I don't see anyone even talking about players we can bring in close level. I think you see Semenyo, Bowen's always a name that floats about, but I don't think no one's near the caliber of Salah. So he is crucial. I think I saw a good point for someone saying that Gakpo, if he had to become the main man, I think you'd be surprised at the numbers he hit. But still, again, nothing compared to what Salah's got this season. So yeah, he's crucial. And again, at this point, I hate all this talk these days of, Trent, Van Dijk and Salah, who will sign, who won't. I think they're sort of dying down slightly now, especially that the window's closing. But, I just don't see him anywhere else. It's very hard to picture him going to any other team, but we've just got to wait and see now for the summer.
I personally think I said this on a stream last week or the week before, I think Salah and Van Dijk are done. But they can't announce Salah and Van Dijk because it puts more pressure on Trent, because then all the fans will be like, well, why have you not signed and the other two have? So I think that them two are probably done. And they can't come out and say it's done. They have to say there's no progress, I suppose, as well, because, again, puts pressure on Trent. But I'd usually go to West next, but I want to flip it straight to you, Class, because Harry's just made a good point. What about Cody Gakpo for Salah's output numbers? Now, I know you're the biggest Cody Gakpo fan there is, Carter. What about him as replacing Salah's numbers from the left wing rather than the right?
Now, honestly, contrary to belief, I actually do like Gakpo. I just like him more in the middle because I think his best work is him in the box. I think, he's got the good cross, but I think he can't. I think when you look at Chiesa, or Chiesa, however you say it, I think he can go to the byline a lot more. Like, I think he has a lot more variance. And I feel like when we have our striker now with the way we play, they get a lot less service, especially from the left, because I feel it's always going from the left winger to the right winger, from the right winger to the left winger. and that doesn't really play into Núñez. And I actually think, as bad as it would be to lose Salah, we could really replace Salah, because I think the press would get better. I think Szoboszlai would have to do like less tracking. I think he'd have a bit more positional freedom. I think he'd have to do less covering and tracking back because it'd be more of a team. I think there's a lot of ways we can replace him, like in the aggregate. Like I think if you went and got like Gittins from Dortmund, and you had Gittins and Gakpo, you signed a number 9, you had a backup like right winger, and maybe you had Doak and Chiesa. I think we can do it. I just think it's gonna be difficult, and there will be growing pains. But I think I like Gakpo as maybe the 4th guy, the guy off the bench. I think he'd be perfect for that. I think he can play down the middle, he can play on the wing. But yeah, I think we could easily, if Salah went and we got a right winger and a striker, I think we get much better, like an actual striker to slot one. So I'm not worried. The only one is Van Dijk that I'd really be worried about, because I just don't see anyone like because I think our structure is defensively so good, but I just think the drop off in individual quality would be too high. Whereas the other ways, I think we could make it up in different ways, if that makes sense.
Yeah. What about you, Wes? Do you agree with Carter that if Salah was to go, which we've got to go off what we know as fans at the minute, is that he is leaving at the end of the season. If he was to go and we were to bring in, say, someone like Gittins and an out-and-out striker who can score a goal, like Núñez, would we be okay? Or do you think if Salah does depart this summer, hopefully he doesn't, but if he does, do you think Liverpool next year could find himself in going from winning the Premier League to a top 4 race next year?
Not really. I think if we bring in a winger and a striker, out and out striker, I think it would look better. But the problem that I have is that in big games, when you look at big games, Salah has better numbers. Salah has stepped up more compared to the rest of the players. And I believe that next season, if Salah goes, we don't need these goals. The goals can be shared around the players, around the frontline players. But then the problem is that I have a question of big games. I haven't seen big game performances from Cody Gakpo, only the United game. But then like big games where like the pressure's on, Salah always stands up. Salah always raises his hand up. So like I'm a bit 50-50. I'm really not sure. I don't want to lose Salah. But then also I have to have a life without Salah in the future. But then for now, I think maybe keep him for a year or two, and then we can start molding the Tottenham guy. Because of course the Tottenham guy can be good, but then like when it comes to the Premier League, it's a different league, to be honest. And I haven't watched him that much to say he's my Salah replacement. I would rather take a Rodrigo from Real Madrid, because I've seen potential in him. I've watched him more often as a replacement for Salah, not the Dortmund player.
Yeah, I mean, Carragher's the one who put it in my head that Liverpool, and you think back in recent years, Harry, we've lost like Coutinho, Suarez, Torres, Alonso, Mascherano. We've lost big players, and Liverpool still survived. And Carragher said Liverpool will always survive. And yeah, we've lost big players in the past, but I don't know. For me, I just feel like Salah's a bit different. If you were to lose Salah, he's a bigger miss than a Coutinho or a Torres or a Suarez, don't you think?
I think the closest player out of the ones you've named, in at least in my time, Suarez in terms of numbers, and when he left, they struggled to replace him with a good striker for a good at least year or even two. I think after 2 years, that's when Firmino came in, I want to say. And then that's sort of the first striker they got where we're like, yeah, this is the guy that can start for us. And that took time. And I know it'll be a similar thing for Salah, where there aren't players out there that hit numbers like that. And it's almost impossible to replace him. But I do believe that if he was to go, they'd make it work. I think if you think back to around January last season, I want to say, I think AFCON was on, or I think it was that time. And it was front three of mostly Jota, Núñez, and then Diaz and Gakpo in the mix. And that worked. I think we had a really good spell without him. So they've shown it can work. I just think back to the Bournemouth game. I think we won 4-0 away at Bournemouth, and it was just a perfect performance almost without him. So yeah, we'll definitely survive, but replacing him's almost an impossible task.
West, realistically, if Salah goes this summer, then where would you think Liverpool would find himself next year? Do you think we could still challenge for a Premier League without Salah? If you were to bring in, I don't know. I've seen people in the comments saying about Gyökeres, but I don't think he's good enough for the Prem. Say you brought in like a Gittins and an out-and-out striker, whoever that may be. Do you think Liverpool can then challenge again next year? You're muted.
Oh shit. I think we will challenge, but then my concern is the centre backs. As Carter said, the centre backs for me is a better question because no one can replace Van Dijk. I think Van Dijk has the years to keep producing levels and levels. We've seen him lock up Haaland, lock up a lot of players, lock up Mbappe. So now, my concerns coming to attack, I'm really not concerned because I think they can make it work, as Harry said. But then defensive wise, this is my problem because Van Dijk is the glue to the defense. You have seen him carry us in games. Brighton game, in Bournemouth's game, yesterday's game, the Man United game, where he was fed up with Trent. So now I think losing Van Dijk, I think will send us back, to be honest. And like people say, and when like Carragher said that like losing players in Liverpool like Suarez, Coutinho, yes, but then these players actually took us to the promised land. So losing them, it's kind of different. Like they took us to the league, they took us to the Champions League, they took us to the quadruple chase. They almost took us there. We were almost there. We were 2 games behind. So now losing Van Dijk for me is a more stressful option than losing Salah.
Car, so that I don't know. I'm a bit shocked by that comment to say you'd rather use Van Dijk and Salah. I'm fairly in the camp with you of like Van Dijk over everyone, to be honest. But I am worried about Salah because of his numbers. I think if you lose Mo Salah, you probably don't guarantee a title charge next year, and that's not being negative. It's just more Liverpool could go and bring in the greatest potential goal scorer there is out there, but they've got to gel in, haven't they? They've got to bed in, and if you know you're losing Salah, for me, I think you should probably bring a replacement in now. I know the window shuts tomorrow, but then that gives them 6 months away from the spotlight to learn how we want to develop. Or do you think the club maybe even look at Jayden Danns as the man who's going to read the line?
I think it's really difficult. I think Danns is a few loans away from being ready, but I think we are just in like a really difficult position. Like I know hindsight's a great thing, but as I would like, I think Mbomo is like a safe option of like you get a good level of output. I think his output would get high with us, but I think the issue is there's not a Mahrez at Leicester, there's not a Rafinha at Leeds, who I think are a bit of a level above him. Who you go, this guy you think could be like a top world class player, but I think we can improve the team enough all round to be fine. And I think the issue with Salah is as well, he hurts the press. And actually, I do kind of agree with what Wes said in the sense of is Salah just turns up. And I think this is one of the things, and people are going to say I don't like Gakpo. I think he was a bit of a B word because he was like, I'm playing out of position, I'm playing as striker, I'm playing here. I think the best thing that I can attribute to truly top players is you can kind of play them almost anywhere and they perform really well. They don't care. They get on with it. They relish with it. They're just like, I don't care. Just play me wherever. Gerrard, if you played him at right back, left back, centre mid, striker. If you play Firmino kind of anywhere, he'll go on and get on with it. Mane would play anywhere. I think someone, and people don't always like the shout, I think someone like Kudus, he's someone who's used to having loads of pressure on him. I think he's someone who you can turn to and he'll try and make things happen. He's constantly battling. He's constantly trying things. And some of these guys don't necessarily replace Salah in the 11, but sometimes if you lose someone like Salah, who wants to stand up, who relishes like taking the pressure and taking the responsibility, there are guys out there. They just might not all play in Salah's position. So maybe we have to get another striker. We have to change the left wing. But I think we will get on. Life after Salah will be fine. The only difficult one is life after Van Dijk for me, because I think even losing Van Dijk, we've now got 6'8" goalkeeper coming in. So on corners and stuff, we should still be very good defensively. So there's always ways to mitigate stuff. And I think literally just signing a competent left back. I know Robbo played well, but just signing someone who can be consistently good. That's what this season, that's maybe 5-6 more points. And then what are we, a 96 point team? If we have cover for Gravenberch, that means we're going to maintain. So I think there's so many little ways that we can make up for Salah's output going. So I'm fine with it. As much, but as a fan, I want him to stay. I want him to beat all the records. I want him to get second to Shearer. That's what I want. But ultimately, we are fine. And if you look at how good Bournemouth are now, off who Hughes has recruited players with on a much smaller budget, with much less pool, I'm really confident for us going forwards.
hope so, because he's done nothing for 9 months since he's come in, just been chilling. But moving on to Trent. In fact, I want to bring this comment up off Mark first to end it, which on our stuff that Liverpool made Salah before us. Salah's a decent winger. I don't agree with the offers. I think when if he was any good, I think Brighton would have kept hold of him. He's been brilliant in the Championship and in the Portuguese league. I think Darwin Núñez has scared the life out of me buying anyone from Portugal in the future. But moving on to Trent, obviously went off yesterday in the second half with an upper leg injury. Now, there's a fantastic account on X, should I say, called Physio Scout, who seems to get injuries quite bang on from just watching the game and that, really. They say Slot just added that he felt something and there's nothing to indicate it's a serious injury, but they said it's unlikely to be a cork/constitution with that description. It's more likely a quad strain or general tightness. Now, if it's just quad tightness, you're probably talking he's back for next. If it's a quad strain, then you're looking at 2 to 6 weeks out. So worst case scenario, Harry, if Trent was out for 6 weeks. Now, I know we've got to get on with life after Trent because he's probably going to Madrid. But the games that Trent had missed this year, if he is out for 6 weeks, would be Tottenham on Thursday, Plymouth, Everton, Wolves, City, Newcastle, Southampton, and then potentially be back for Villa. So worst case scenario, 6 weeks out, he's missing some humongous games there, isn't he? Are you worried, or do you think Conor Bradley is fine to get through that many games, really, and big games at that as well? You've got a cup semi-final, you want to progress in the FA Cup, you've got a derby, City away, Newcastle in that time. Is it a worry losing Trent potentially for up to 6 weeks?
No, I've been in the mindset now for quite a while that whenever Trent's injured or even just in poor form, and because there's been games where he's just been in poor form and not started, I'm so confident with Conor Bradley now. I really enjoy watching him. I think he never really looks phased. I mean, the moment you'll always go to is Mbappe running through, and he just he slides in with that confidence and runs off with it. It's, I think that was one of the. I'm trying to think of big games he's played, and I think he played against Manchester City in the 2-0 as well. I'm not wrong, around that same sort of time. And yeah, he never looks phased. He never, he doesn't really get beat a lot either. He's so solid, and then going forward as well, he's got a strike on him, he's got a cross on him. I really like him, and it's quite unlucky for him actually, because in pretty much any other team in the world, or most teams in the world, he's the starting right back. But just so unfortunately for him, he plays for Liverpool, where sort of the most unique and probably best right back in the world plays. But yeah, I'm not worried at all. As long as he stays fit, if he gets injured, then we've got a serious problem. But he's usually quite good with fitness. He's not had too many injuries, and yeah, other than that, I'm quite confident with him.
What about you, West? I mean, we're looking. He could be back as early as Plymouth. Could be gone as long as Aston Villa, like we just said. I mean, I reckon it'll probably be more around the 2 to 3 week mark, which could mean he's back for Man City. But he's more or less, I think, going to miss the derby. Do you think it's better to protect? Because I look at it, if Trent's going in the summer, he's not going to go into tackles like he would if he weren't going in the summer at the derby, is my philosophy behind it. So what do you think of up to 6 weeks without Trent? Have you got any concerns with that, or are you quite excited to see Conor Bradley have a prolonged space in the team for a few weeks?
Yeah, I'm really not concerned. It's not like Trent has been having good games in the past few months, to be honest. So I've like Conor Bradley, for me, gives him more confidence. He knows how to defend. He locks up players. Like yesterday when he came on, uh, that player, the Bournemouth player, the Bournemouth winger, he locked him up when he got there. Like he defended very well. So Conor Bradley, I'm just confident. The problem with Trent was like people like the reason why we Trent, because people like Trent because of his passing and his creativity. But then like the creativity, our midfield is good enough to create for us. So with Conor Bradley, I would like if Trent is not like 100% sure for the derby, I'll play Conor Bradley, because I think Conor Bradley will give us a performance, to be honest. So I'm really not concerned, because Conor Bradley, he earned my trust against Mbappe last year. So Trent Alexander-Arnold can go, to be honest.
What about you, Carter? I mean, West just touched on it there. It's Trent's It's Trent attacking prowess that I think we miss, especially against Everton, because they are going to throw 11 behind the ball. Now having someone like Trent can unlock a team in one pass and you're scoring a goal. So do you think is that the only game in that run that you look at and think, oh, we could probably do with Trent there? Because I think when you come up against City, I think like anyone who they throw at Bradley, he's comfortable. Judging by how they played today, I think Liverpool are more than comfortable in that game. I think Plymouth, we play the kids anyway. I think Spurs at Anfield, we beat them anyway. So is it just that Everton game you probably think, oh, we could have done with Trent there?
I think the only games that I would really be worried about Trent missing would be games where we're playing someone who presses really well or teams that sit back really well. So I think, the Moyes game, I think the Moyes sort of the team he'll play with all the big lads, I think we'll definitely miss him, because I do think as much, and this isn't an issue on Bradley, this is an issue on what we miss from Trent. Like, Bradley is really good, but when you take Trent out, I don't even think Trent's there for creativity anymore. I think he's there because he's the best progressor of the ball in the team. And he does make mistakes, but he also tries things. And that's why loads of guys who constantly try, they give the ball away the most. De Bruyne would give the ball away the most. Trent gives the ball away the most. Bruno Fernandes gives the ball away the most. It's because they're the guys who get on the ball and they take the risks. And I think we should I'd just rest him till he's 100%. I'd keep him for either the final against Newcastle or Champions League games. I think we don't need to rush him in. I think City's press is terrible at the moment. I think we can play through them without. But I just think it's difficult with Trent, because I understand the thing of him pulling out and whatnot, but I just think we just can't replace what he offers, like with putting anyone else moving any of the team around. And I think if he's not there, then Robertson has to sit further back maybe, and you don't get the best out of him. I just think it's really difficult to try and replace him in the aggregate. I actually think he's the hardest player of his quality to replace, because you can still get a good centre-back who's good defensively, but to get what someone offers from Trent there, you just can't find it. And I think, and I do get what people mean about him having bad games, but I think you can kind of compare him to Salah a bit, where Trent has a bad 70 or an average 70 minutes, but all of a sudden 2 unbelievable passes, 60 yards, and you've got 2 goals. And the other thing that I thought was the big difference now is when Trent goes long, he doesn't have Mane, Firmino and Salah, who are all peak prime age, who are all so physically combative, who are all so sharp, whose link up so good. Sometimes the ball is going to go up and the guys just aren't as good as Firmino, Salah, young Salah and Mane in that regard, and the ball is going to come back. And they're all not on the same wavelength, and we keep chopping and changing the team. So sometimes he is going to make passes and go, oh, Núñez would have made that run, or oh, Diaz would have made that run, not Núñez. So I think actually for Trent, it's been a lot harder this year with all the chopping and changing.
Fair points. It's interesting though. I was speaking to a few Madrid fans. They don't want Trent, madly enough. They don't think he's a good enough defender for their system. But I think Charlie said it as well, that Trent under Alonso is a different beast, isn't it, to Trent under Ancelotti? If he goes to Ancelotti, Trent will be back in 6 months under Alonso. You look at Frimpong, which brings you on to that, Harry. Frimpong, I think Bayer Leverkusen players are there for the taking this summer, because Alonso is probably going to go to Real Madrid as the manager. Do you think that plays into? I mean, I know Trent will be free come summer, but do you think Alonso comes into that and thinks, "No, I do want Trent," or do you think he says to Florentino Perez, "Do you know what? I quite would like from Frimpong instead"? Or in counteract to that, do you think Liverpool would move for Frimpong or trust in Bradley?
I see Alonso going there and wanting his own players, especially the ones that are of the highest quality, such as Frimpong. You know, I think he was sort of regarded as one of the best right backs last season. Although, as someone that doesn't watch Bayer Leverkusen a lot, he seems almost more of a right midfield or even right winger. I'm sure in some games he started that high up or played that high up. So I don't know that much about him. I don't know how good he is defensively. I don't know too much. I think, as far as I can tell, Conor Bradley will be trusted. I think he's definitely earned the trust to get starting that team. And then if he has a whole season of starting and he's up there with the best, he'll keep that, or he might drop off a bit and they look into the market. So I think he'll definitely get an opportunity to prove himself worthy of sort of a few years in the team. We'll have to wait and see what happens with that. But I don't know. If Frimpong's a sort of well-rounded player that can defend as well as he can attack, then I'm sure it'd be someone they look at. He's always linked, but I say I don't know enough about him to comment on that too much.
West, want to bring this comment from Mark up for you. Trent's numbers are below average for 2 years now as defending clown show versus high press teams. You mentioned earlier on in the stream that Trent can go for all you care. Is that one of the reasons why do you think he hasn't hit the heights that he hit, say, the Premier League, Champions League winning seasons the last few years? I mean, I rarely rate Trent. I think a lot of people are critiquing him now because he's probably going, but bar defensive capabilities, has Trent been poor the last few years?
To be honest, let me get this out the way. I love Trent also. I rate him very high. I wish he could stay, but then I look at his performances and I look at the effort he's not putting in. But then I think Trent this season, but besides the Man United game, he actually improved in defense. He actually did well. So that's why I would say I can replace a Conor Bradley for Trent, because like Trent now, he does not give out, like he does not, his numbers to assists and goals are not that high compared to the past Champions League season winning, Premier League winning season. His numbers are not that high anymore. They're a bit lower. So that's why I wouldn't mind to put Conor Bradley in there. But then like for Trent, like he's good, but then I look at his performance more than I look at the player.
That's fair enough. Cast, Bradley, do you think he is the natural successor to Trent, or should we be looking at a Frimpong who probably does get forward more like Trent than a Conor Bradley does?
I think it's really difficult because I think all the positions all have like a massive impact on each other. But I think if you are losing Trent in your 11, I think you almost, because he's freakishly good at passing, I almost think, obviously you can't really replace that at right back. So maybe you get someone who's freakishly good offensively, who can overlap, who maybe the left back we get sits a bit deeper, and Frimpong, you kind of move Salah closer to goal and you have Frimpong up there and Szoboszlai covers him. And we probably could get a really good tune out of Frimpong. We'd have to sort of like set up our team a bit specifically, but I think he'd be really interesting. I just think it's really difficult with the right backs now because Frimpong's such like a good little price with his like sort of buyout. But then you look at someone like, for me, people might not agree, and I know he's a bit injury prone. I really like Tino Livramento at Newcastle. I think he's really, really good. I think he hasn't got massive output, but I think he's so good on the ball. I think he's really good defensively. I think he's a big lad. But how much is that going to cost you? So I think ultimately, if we can get someone who can maybe be the starter ahead of Bradley, yeah, perfect. But I don't think we should just hand Bradley the spot. I know he's played really well, but I think at top clubs, you're never just handed anything. You should always sign these top guys, and whoever comes out top gets the position. That's how it should be. It shouldn't be just handed to anyone. There should always be a level of competition. We should always be signing someone, putting pressure on players. I think that's the best way to go. And hopefully whoever we sign is at least sort of Bradley quality. Because I just think, imagine if we sign someone who's poor, or we say Joe Gomez is going to be back up right back. If Bradley gets injured for 6 months, the whole setup of the team is going to have to change because you have a subpar player there. Like, look at what's happened with City, with Rodri, and like Arsenal and Saka. The whole dynamics of the team change. So I think it's just really difficult for Hughes and the team to get this one right.
Yeah, very, very, very difficult, and because it does look like he is going to depart. Moving on then, before we do finish, so talking of an incoming potentially, Spurs have become a bit of a laughingstock. So many players this January window have said no to them, wants to stay at clubs rather than move. But Micky Van De Ven is one of theirs, and I think it's interesting that this has came out considering we played him in the semi-final on Thursday. But he's actually came out and said that he wouldn't mind playing next to Van Dijk in defence, saying he's a fabulous defender and doing great at Liverpool. He says he learns a lot from him. When we play against Tottenham, Van Dijk still gives him tips after the game. Now, Harry, it was someone Liverpool were linked with before he did go to Tottenham. I think he's impressed since being at Tottenham. He hasn't set the world alight, but he's impressed. And I think he's a player you could bring in and probably could go to that next level under a manager like Arne Slot and under our system. But do you think the price demanded from Spurs, considering he's probably their best centre half, would just completely rule Liverpool out of any race for him?
Yeah, I think he's one of those players for Spurs where you don't see them even consider selling him for any price. I mean, especially not to a Premier League rival. I also think, in terms, especially at least at Liverpool, he's probably when he says he wants to play it to Van Dijk, he's probably referring to the national team more than anything. I've not, I don't know if anyone's seen the interview. You don't know. Sometimes those quotes get a bit, misconstrued or taken out of context. But in terms of it was someone at Liverpool to look at, I'd feel like losing Van Dijk and let's just say Van Dijk left and Van De Ven became the left centre back next to Konate. You've not got someone that can ping a pass the same way Van Dijk can. That's sort of one of his most underrated qualities. I feel that people don't talk about as much is how important he is in terms of getting the ball out to the white wingers, especially Salah. when he pulls off those diags to Salah, they're just the most ridiculous passes. So, yeah, I mean, I can never see it personally. I don't think Tottenham would sell. But yeah, definitely an interesting player to look at one day if that became an opportunity.
What about you, West? Micky Van De Ven, do you think it's someone who could come in and improve this Liverpool side? Or I completely agree with Harry. I think it's been spun out of context, but do you think he's someone who could come in and improve us? Or do you think it is just he's referring to the national team and it's been spun into you want to Liverpool context?
Of course, he can improve us, but then to be honest, like I agree with both of you guys. I think he meant in the Netherlands team they play together. So I don't think Tottenham would ever sell to us. They're rivals, to be honest. And I don't think even though they would sell to us, I don't think Liverpool would take out the money for him. Because I'm sure Tottenham will ask for like 80 million plus. And I don't think Liverpool. I don't see Liverpool taking out that money for Micky Van De Ven. I think Liverpool will go on a cheaper route, go for a fourth choice, because the problem if we get Van De Ven, where does he play? Because like I don't think I'll be comfortable benching Konate, and I'm definitely not sure of benching Van Dijk. So I wouldn't go for him, to be honest. He's a good player, he's a decent player, but then I don't think he will come to Liverpool, because if he comes to Liverpool, he's coming as a starter. He's not a bench player. So yeah.
Yeah, Carter. I mean, Muse is saying he's actually rated at 55 million. And Hato, who came to Anfield to be Gravenberg's mate, but definitely had a little nose at the club as well, is valued around 30 million. Do you think that sort of confirms if there's options out there in the Dutch league who's got such high ceiling in Hato for 30 mil? Do you think we'd even look at a Prem proven option for 25 million pound more when you look at next summer, we're potentially going to need a right back, another midfielder, a right winger, a striker? Do you think it will be pretty much a centre back comes in for around 30 million? Or if you look at, say, Van De Ven 55 mil, I believe you could get 40, 45 for Joe Gomez. So factor that into it as well.
I think it's really difficult. I do like Van De Ven, but I'm going to kind of say I think the max I pay for him is like 45, 50. I think he's too injury prone. I think he's probably not good enough on the ball. And I think he actually, as good as he is sort of defending space, I do think if you look at all the Newcastle games, the amount of times he ends up on the floor in his face, I think he is good, but I think he is slightly overrated. But I think the type of profile that he is, I think makes a lot of sense. I think we should sign, especially if we were to sell Gomez for that amount, we have to sign someone that can play fullback and centre-back, because our bench is already too full. We've got too many guys. I think we do need to trim the squad down one or two players. And then obviously you have your younger players who fill up, like McConnell, I wouldn't count as one of the main team players. So I just think it's really difficult. I like this shout of Hato, but I think obviously Hato makes a lot of sense, but maybe we do look and say we do need a proven centre-back, because Quansah and Gomez aren't really trusted to play ahead of Konate. So maybe we look at Guehi, Zenzabane. I know he was at fault for the second goal today. I really like Nathan Collins. I think he's got really good sort of attributes. I think there's a lot of guys around there who maybe aren't as quick as our centre-backs, but I think they have a lot more, like maybe on the ball, they're a lot better. And I think someone like Slot because we're up and down a lot less, I think there might be less of a requirement on that. And especially if Trent isn't your right back, you can get away with Mark Gahey being there, or Sven Botman, who's, I know he's very injury prone, so I wouldn't go for him. But I think there are a lot of opportunities out there for us to get that third guy. And as much as Wes said, someone might not want to come in and be the bench player, we've got so many games. And Konate, has he actually got injured this year? I can't really remember. But Konate will miss games at some point. He will miss games. Even if he's fit this year, he'll miss games.
I think he's missed 3, hasn't he, with his knee, but came back quite quick.
Yeah. But that's, I mean, he'll be fit this season, and then who knows what's going to happen next season. It's always going to even out. So I don't want to say this, but it wouldn't shock me next year if he misses 8 months because he's being fit for 12 months, because he's just that kind of player where it always is going to even out. So we just have to be really careful. And I think he makes sense, but I prefer Hato probably.
I would love Konate to never get injured again and come back to this stream. When fit, though, he definitely is the best centre-back, second best centre-back in the world. So it's hard for any centre-back looking at Liverpool, I suppose, that you're coming in and where'd you play? If Konate's fit, he walks in ahead of anyone in the world. If Van Dijk's fit, he's the best in the world. It's a tough team to get into, really, isn't it?
But I think if we sign someone, I think you could say to Konate that you're only going to play 1 game a week. And I think he'd be all right with that, because that's the kind of player he is. So I think there would be cup games, dead rubber Champions League games. Like, I think there'd be enough football for a Mark Gahey or a Van De Ven or someone to come in. So I think actually we should probably get the finger out and decide what we're doing with Joe Gomez and Quansah and get that guy who's like good enough to start.
Interesting. We will leave it there, though, for tonight's stream. Don't forget, we are back tomorrow at 7:30 for a deadline day stream. I'd love to tell you who's on, but we don't even know ourselves yet. But the deadline day tomorrow at 7:30. We all know nothing's going to happen between now and then. We'll Liverpool. Richard Hughes is probably on holiday with Mickey Edwards. But yeah, do tune in for that. We'll be reviewing all the transfers from across all 20 teams. I've been Matty, joined by Harry, West and Carter. Nice one for watching. Nice one for joining me on the stream. And we'll be back tomorrow. See you then.